Ferry passengers disagree with statements made by passengers on board of the other boat. Jeffrey Knight's lawyer, Kevin Hazlett, shared a third letter to investigators questioning the ferry's potential safety violations. Now, I'll tell you this right now. We might be the only people, I wouldn't say are sticking up for Jeff Knight, but is trying to give you the fair interpretation as to what might happen here.
How about innocent until proven guilty, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. But he's very much, perceived as a multi-millionaire bad guy, much like me, but take the millionaires out. And I'm just the bad guy. And I've been so wrongly judged just based on headlines. I've been part of, I don't know how many different lawsuits, where one of which where I was, facing 5 years in prison. And because I'm Bubba the Love Sponge, I was automatically guilty. Jeff Knight, by the media standards and by most people's public perception, is guilty. And what happened was there was this ferry that was moving people from point A to point B in a non-wake zone area, and it was putting along, and Jeff Knight's boat hit it from behind. Now, on the surf, and one person on the ferry died. Jeff Knight, in kind of the Reader's Digest version, stayed at the crash for a while as he tried to float the boat, hit the ferry to a sandbar, and then he had a baby that was, I've been told now, 12 days old. But he needed to get injured passengers, including people on the ferry, to medical help. He felt as if Morton Plant was the closest, which it is, or his boat ramp where people could transport them via a vehicle.
So what we thought, maybe he's going to the boat ramp to take care of an injured person on his boat. We said that.
He blew... Here's some things that people are questioning. He blew a 000. His blood was taken within I think it's like, I forget how many hours within. His blood was taken. I think it's come back clean.
I don't want to counter program, but they didn't take his blood.
They haven't taken his blood?
No.
Okay. So there's been a lot of missteps, including one not taking Jeff Knight's blood. But another misstep is they never tested the ferry drivers.
Really?
Never. And I have, I'm fairly close to this because I have some insight. They never tested the ferry drivers. The ferry boat was overloaded by 3 people. And there's been 2 captains that have former captains of the ferry company step forward and talk to Kevin Hazlett about how they quit because of safety violations of this boat. Now, the media is going to absolutely make Jeff Knight look like the biggest piece of shiz ever. He's a millionaire. He's been not in trouble, but had missteps before, none of which matters in this incident. But there's a lot of things to be considered here. I can't wait to get Kevin's printed letter.
It should be.
Oh, God, thank you, Macho Man. All I saw was a big ass left forearm come in. Damn, that's delivery. Now, Jay, when I read the victims on the ferry, the passengers on the ferry have retained an attorney, okay? And he wrote a letter.
I want to know the name, and I'll look it up when you
and then
it.
Kevin wrote a letter, and oh my God, Becca, just in letter form, I can, and Jay, this is certainly what you do for a living. You can tell what type of juggernaut or what type of whale or what type of rookie or what type of ambulance chaser or what type of sling and D you're dealing with. usually just by the letter correspondence. Am I not right?
Yes, 100%.
How you guys write back and forth, and the things that you write to submit to the court or the media, and how you write it versus how they write, you can tell your opponent's strength and or weakness. Here is a media report about this incident.
All right, Bobby, thank you. Tonight, more victims on board that ferry that was hit by another boat more than a week ago, now sharing their stories. A Palm Harbor father died in that incident. Several people injured following the crash, too, and it was captured on a camera. The other boat was driven by Jeffrey Knight. He's a prominent business owner who stepped down from his position at Janus Live following that crash. But passengers on the Clearwater ferry say that is not enough. They say it's time for accountability. So far, no arrests have been made.
Not only have no arrests been made, no arrests will be made.
Investigates Jennifer Titus joining us with new information and how ferry passengers are.
This was so mishandled on so many different levels that Jeff Knight not only will walk, but didn't do anything wrong.
Are upset about statements from
and that's not the popular opinion, even in this room.
Those on board,
which I'm good with. You don't have to have my opinion.
Knight's boat.
Yeah, we sat down with two of the ferry passengers today who say the claims made to investigators are simply not true. Brenda Alvarez and Marcos Pacheco were on the ferry when Knight's boat crashed into the ferry. They had just gone to the Sugar Sand Festival with their kids. They both remember the night of the crash very well. Brenda was thrown to the ground during the impact and still has a lot of pain. They are trying their best to recover and question some of the statements being made by Knight's lawyer. Knight's lawyer says that allegations of leaving the scene are without legal basis. He says that Jeff stayed to offer aid but had to leave because his boat was taking on water. Pacheco and Alvarez say the truth is Jeffrey Knight left the scene of the crash. Their lawyer also says that comments made about the captain and passengers being distracted by dolphins in the area is false, and that blaming the victims for this crash is offensive and improper.
I just hope that the investigation carries through and that whoever's found at fault is held accountable. And like I said, my family and I can just move on from this and heal.
I just like to hope that the authorities do their best to consider our feelings and everything that we went through. And we're hoping for a good outcome, I guess you could say. I don't have the words.
I think you probably, out of the 44 people on the boat, I think you could have probably found a couple better spokespersons.
Did reach out to Knight's lawyer once again, asking if Knight or passengers on his boat would go on camera, but we were told that they are reluctant to speak publicly because of what they're calling vicious online commentary. They did send us a third letter that they have sent to FWC investigators, what they are asking for. Coming up all new tonight at 6 o'clock.
I was forwarded a troll of this particular situation that was trying to nudge their opinions into this deal. I forget where it was. Somebody sent it to me where it was be like Jeffrey Knight's a scumbag and his attorney is going to go on the Bubba the Love Sponge show.
Oh, really?
And it was like trying to get us involved. And I was just like, you know what? That's one of my trolls that are just trying, that knows that we're friends and, just trying to, troll it up. So I have the letter. Mickey Keenan, PA. This is who represents the people that were on the ferry. For immediate release, ferry victims Jeffrey Knight needs to be held accountable. Clearwater, Florida, May 5th, 2025. By this point, everybody in the Bay Area knows and has seen the horrific video of Jeffrey Knight speeding his boat into the back of the Clearwater ferry. To the average viewer, it's clear what happened. Knight wasn't paying attention, was traveling at an unsafe speed, and was operating a boat in a careless manner, causing the Clearwater Fire Department labeled as a mass casualty event of injuries and death. Now, Jay, as a lawyer, here's strike number one. You're calling Jeff Knight a millionaire. Millionaire Jeffrey Knight. That has no bearing on this case.
Well, I mean, the whole statement, that's a statement. Millionaire Jeffrey Knight refuses to accept responsibility. Aren't you allowed to, deny responsibility if you don't believe you're negligent?
Yes.
I mean, it's just,
Like I said, do you remember
it's
when
skewed already one way.
Do you remember when I said you can get a letter from opposing counsel and you know exactly what you're dealing with?
For sure.
Okay. So, millionaire Jeffrey Knight refuses to accept responsibility for his negligence and has demonstrated no remorse. Jeffrey Knight has blamed the crash on everybody except himself, including the victims. Our firm represents the victims of this crash, including the family of Marcos Pacino, Brenda Alvarez. We want to make clear that no matter what Jeffrey Knight's lawyers say, this is, Jay, I could write a better legal brief than this.
You read one of mine last week. How did that go?
Oh, it's you hold on. Most attorneys cite case law. I mean, it's like, wait till I read Kevin's. It's exactly something you would have written. We want to make clear that no matter what Jeffrey Knight's lawyers say, Knight did not act reasonably before, during, or after the crash, and his failure to do so has had dire results. Statement from Marcus Pacino and Brenda Alvarez. We teach our children if somebody in our family does something wrong, they must own up to their mistake and accept responsibilities. Jeffrey Knight clearly does not abide by these. Now, this is a letter that you're releasing to the media. Why are you taking quotes from the people that were involved in this? Wouldn't you want them not to talk and let your lawyer do all the talking?
Yes.
Instead of saying that we as a family teach our children to I mean, this is just horrible. A statement from attorney Scott Cepolo. Whether it's on a boat or a car, we expect members of our community to follow the rules. These rules keep us safe. People like Jeffrey Knight, who acted recklessly without due regard for safety rules and who refused to accept responsibility for their actions, put families at risk. If Jeffrey Knight is not held accountable for his actions now, who will be the next person he kills or injures? As an attorney, you're writing that before you've ever stepped. I mean, not very attorney-like. Fact check. Knight's claim 1. Allegations of leaving the scene are without legal and or factual basis. Truth. Jeffrey Knight left the scene of the crash. This is the only fact that is undisputed. He drove away, period, end of story. Boy, that does not sound very legal-like to me. He drove away, period, end of story.
You want to hear this guy's notable cases?
Yes.
Major policy limits. Offered 60, got 700,000. Swift policy limit settlement after rear-end collision. They offered 41. I got 100. Significant litigation success in a disputed case. $200,000 settlement when they initially offered 8,000. You know what mine are?
Yeah.
6 mil, 5.4 mil. I mean, are you kidding? These are his 6. These are notable cases. These are not notable cases for me.
Yeah, those are just that's a Wednesday. Say it.
When I'm looking at these guys' website and I'm looking at their experience,
so hold on. So
this is no Steve Yared.
In moments before the collision, the captain and many passengers were distracted by dolphins in the area, diminishing navigational awareness. You're going to use the dolphins distraction gimmick? What case law can you cite me under the dolphin distraction gimmick?
Well, these are what Knight's claim is, right?
Knight's claim, I guess.
That's what Knight's saying, that the boat,
truth.
it stopped
Blaming the victims for this crash is offensive and improper. If it was light enough that the victims could see the dolphins, why couldn't Knight see massive Ferry directly in front of him? The answer is because he wasn't paying attention. Maybe true. Claim 3. Clearwater Ferry was not displaying the required navigational lights at the time of the accident. This uncontested fact show that Mr. Knight acted in full compliance with the Florida law. Truth. None of Mr. Knight's actions are responsible, lawful, or in sound judgment. The video of the ferry crash is not ambiguous. Knight's failure to follow the relevant nautical rules in the primary case of the collision with the ferry. No matter what Jeff Knight, this sounds so like Sophia wrote it. No matter what Jeff Knight says, I would think, Jay, you could put it in a far better legal sounding opinion. No matter what Jeff Knight says, it's clear that his actions caused this collision and the immeasurable pain and suffering of these victims. Mickey Kean is a personal injury law firm with offices in Tampa, Riverview, Sarasota, and the Villages, and who have been injured by careless others. The lawyers of Mickey Kean have delivered tens of millions of dollars, and none of this. I'm going to tell you something. Kevin Hazlett's his 1, 2, 3. None of when Kevin Hazlett signed his letter, he didn't say Carlson, Meisner, and Hazlett is a law firm based out of Clearwater, Florida, with officers in blah, 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 and blah, 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 and have helped, like you don't put your track record on as the closure of your rebuttal letter to opposing counsel. None of that matters.
No, and if I were handling this, I would do it quietly, and I would give Jeff an opportunity to settle quietly and not do this. And he's trying his case publicly terribly.
Well, Jeff ain't settling.
I'm just saying.
Jeff's saying, you know what? I'm walking. I am walking. These boots were made for walking. Wait till I'm going to go to words. Wait till I just read. The people that represent, on the ferries, their lawyer, what's his guy name? Mickey Keenan?
Mickey
Keenan.
And Scott Cepolo.
Right.
Nicole
now,
Cock.
wait till you hear the sling and date. Wait till you hear somebody that's on the level of J.D. Acco, Greg Herring, Todd Foster, Norman Cannella, the great Barry Cohen. Some unbelievable, huge lawyer, Rob Adams. Great franchises of law and how they write and the wording that they use and how they cite case law. And they just say, no matter what Jeff says, he did it.
And you could find my number at 888-SOS Firm.
And we've helped millions of people, including people in the villages. Last week we solved a grandma got ran over by a golf cart case.
And
they wanted $5,000 and we got $26,000. Jay, you can see now, man, Kevin is positioned for Jeff just to straight walk on this deal. And it's going to get a ton of public scrutiny. Yep. It's going to be, Jeff's going to be a hated man. Mm-hmm. People don't understand the law. There's within a murder. I'm sorry, within an accident or a death, there's procedures involved, and when there's a misstep of procedure or a sequence of negligence, sometimes a person that may have been guilty of doing something reckless, I wouldn't say gets away, but has such a great attorney to accentuate the law, the actual law, and the missteps of investigation that those people often, there's walk.
And it also highlights the difference in the standard of beyond a reasonable doubt in a criminal case versus more likely than not in a civil case. And so the burden of proof is 99.999% that you do not have any reasonable doubt as to the guilt of this person, that they've proved every single charge.
When you think that Mickey Conan and the Rockettes who represent do you think when they got Kevin, when they are receiving correspondence from Kevin like this, they're like, oh God, this isn't the same as fighting grandma in the golf cart case in the villages.
This is not a second-year law student and $100,000, second-year lawyer and $100,000 insurance.
Carlson,
case.
Meisner, Hazlett.
And you're getting the guy.
I represent Jeffrey Knight, the private vessel operator involved in the April 27th, 2025 incident with the commercial ferry Mattie's Crossing. This letter serves as a formal request You don't see anybody. You don't see anybody's opinion. You don't see anybody calling names. You don't see Kevin asking for quotes from Jeffrey. You see this is a fact of law. This is a letter of law. This letter serves as a formal request for investigation and preservation of the evidence related to this incident, both under Florida law and applicable United States Coast Guard USCG Maritime Safety Regulations. Now, the other guys didn't even get into any type of maritime law.
They probably don't know it.
Number 1, failure to sound the required 5-blast danger signal. According to 33 CFR 83-34 Rule D, Rule 34 of the Inland Navigation Rules, when a vessel is in sight of another and there is a doubt as to the other vessel's intentions, the proper and immediate response is 5 short, rapid blasts on the vessel's whistle or horn. This signal is crucial to prevent collisions and is considered the standard response to imminent danger. Multiple witness statements and press accounts indicates there were no such horn. Signal was made prior to the crash. Though our investigators have learned that Marco Vascerio, a passenger aboard the ferry, reportedly heard the captain tell the first mate, "Hey, hey, hey," just before impact. Really, Andre 5000? Hey. The verbal warning does not satisfy the Coast Guard requirements, and we request that your agency evaluate whether this failure is sound to prescribe. The failure to sound the prescribed warning signal contributed to the accident, and whether it shifts responsibility for the collision accordance. Legal precedent. MLB Life Assurance Corp. versus Suez 768. The court examined a collision between a ferry and a private vessel. So, Jay, here's the case law. The court, again, MLB Life Insurance Corp. versus Suez 768 SO 2nd D 1129 Florida 3rd District DCA 2000. So the Florida 3rd District Court of Appeals and the year 2000 case law opinion was the court examined a collision between a ferry and a private vessel, much like this, right? An accident reconstruction expert testified the ferry boat captain was responsible for the collision because he failed to sound the danger doubt signal once he saw the other vessel approaching and failed to ensure that the vessel had proper lighting on the outer rail of the ferry. So, I mean, like, Jay, right out of the box, he has case law as early as 2000 from the 3rd DCA of Florida.
I don't hear any case law on the other side.
Other than, we think Jeffrey Knight is a scumbag.
Right. You can't believe the millionaire.
Yeah. Here's a big passenger overload beyond Coast Guard certifications. Records confirm that Mattie's crossing is a USCG certified, is United States Coast Guard certified to carry 42 passengers and 2 crew. Reports suggest that there were 45 paying passengers during the incident, exceeding its certified capacity. Under law 46 CFR 176-100B and subsection 176-107, such overloading constitutes a serious safety violation and increases a likelihood of liability. We respectfully request a preservation of the full passenger manifest and ticket sales logs, certification of the number of passengers and crew aboard at the time of incident, legal precedent. Outrage versus the State Marine Lines Incorporated, 398 U.S. 375, 1970, the U.S. Supreme Court recognized that violations of maritime safety duties, God, is he a stud? Going back and getting Supreme Court case law of extreme maritime duties, such as overloading a vessel beyond its certified capacity, can form the basis of liability under general maritime law, though we are not suggesting that the excessive passenger count was the proximate cause of the collision. It demonstrates yet another incident where the ferry captain failed to comply with general Coast Guard regulations. Post-incident drug and alcohol compliance per 46 CF 4.6-3. Alcohol testing must be conducted within 2 hours of a serious maritime incident. Drug testing must occur within 32 hours. This incident qualifies under the subsection 46 CFR 406 as a serious maritime incident triggering mandatory testing. We hereby request confirmation that the testing was performed on all relevant Mattie's Crossing crew, documentation of times collected, test results, and chain of custody. Failure to comply with these testing timelines could constitute a violation of federal law and may impair the ability to evaluate a contributory fault.
And they could lose their licenses for failing to comply.
Yeah, well, I mean, we know that Jeffrey Knight was tested, at least alcohol tested.
Reportedly, yep.
Yeah, he blew it's
0-0. It says
right. Legal precedent: Norfolk Shipbuilding versus Dry Dock Corp versus Garris, 532 U.S. 118-211. The Supreme Court held that a negligent breach of general maritime duty of care, such as failure to conduct required post-incident testing, is actionable when it comes to harm. Navigational subsection 4. Navigational lighting violations and unsafe configuration. A thorough visual analysis of Mattie's Crossing has raised serious questions regarding non-compliance with required navigation light regulations under 33 CFR Parts 83 and 84, specifically the stern light. Subsection 33 CFR 8416 required a white light located as close to the stern as practical, visible for 2 nautical miles, over a 136 arc. I guess that might be the intensity of it. On Mattie's Crossing, the only visual white light appears to be the mounting foreship.
that's a big problem.
Though this light was elevated above the deck, a vessel approaching from the stern would not have seen this light as is obstructed by the canopy. Side lights, green and red, under 338320. Red and green starboard side lights must be placed forward and unobstructed. Our photo review suggests the green light was mounted low and recessed, likely behind the rail. This light may be missing or obstructing, violating the 112.5 luminas, our visibility requirement. Intensity, under 33 CFR 8415. Required luminous intensity must ensure 2 miles of visibility. Based on compact size and non-standard placement, it is unclear if the ferry's light even meet this rule. We respectfully request the Florida FWC and/or Coast Guard to evaluate the exact location and visibility angle of the stern and red side lights, whether these lights meet Coast Guard visibility candles/lumina requirements and placement requirements, whether the positioning of obstructed and absence of contributed to Mr. Knight's inability to perceive this vessel in compliance with the collision. Legal precedent. The Pennsylvania 86 U.S. 123 1874, the Supreme Court established that when a vessel is in violation of a statutory rule intended to prevent collisions, it is presumed to be at fault. Oh, this is huge.
Wow.
It is presumed to be at fault unless it can show that its fault could not have been caused via collision. Non-compliance with navigational light requirements could invoke this presumption.
So you're bringing up a couple of incredible points, and one of the things I really noticed was a glaring error in the letter from the people representing, was it Keenan or whatever his name is?
Mickey Nolan and the boys?
Mickey and the boys.
Mickey and the boys.
They never mentioned the word maritime law.
No,
this is not.
And they've never once, they never ever set legal precedents.
Because the standard that
let
we
me ask you a question. Isn't all of law is based on case law?
100%.
I mean,
statutes and case law.
Very rarely do you just pull some brand new law out of your ass. Most everything you do, Jay, you refer back to something that's been similar to what you did and how that was ruled. Mm-hmm. Right? That's like almost 90% of law.
That's right. That's called precedent. And then you have other things that can be argued as persuasive, and they may not be the law, but you can say, look, this court in this jurisdiction was right, and that's the kind of argument you should use here. But these guys, they didn't make any arguments that apply to boating or maritime law.
Mickey and the boys?
Mickey and the boys. All they did is talked about negligence. This isn't a rear-end impact accident. This is a nautical accident where maritime law applies, and it's a whole different area of the law. I don't even practice maritime law. It's a whole different area of regulations and rules. And so Kevin clearly has handled it before.
Oh, my God.
And he has, I guarantee you, a stable of experts on maritime law.
Two more things. Request for immediate preservation of evidence.
Yep.
In light of these issues, we request that your office take the following preservation steps. Secure the preservation of the ferry's navigational light system as is without alteration. Preserve and document AIS, GPS, and any onboard camera data. Collect all 911 calls, VHF marine radio communications, witness statements made at the scene, obtain a maintenance. Here's a good one. Obtain the maintenance log for this and the United States Coast Guard inspection records for Mattie's crossings.
I was just going to ask that. If these are all regulations, who passed this boat?
6. This is the best. Public comment. It's the end. This is the very end, by the way. And by the way, before Kevin signs his name, he doesn't say, don't forget Carlson, Meisner, and Hazlett have settled over, $800 million of cases. And one time they asked for 26,000 and we got them 34. And look at us, Mickey and the boys. Public commentary and narrative integrity. We also ask for your prompt attention to this request, as inaccurate public narratives and premature conclusions have been circulating, some promoted by elected officials unfamiliar with the full facts. We trust that your office will conduct a comprehensive and objective review consistent with the United States Coast Guard standards and maritime safety law. Thank you for your attention in this matter. Please confirm in writing all that the evidence outlined above will be preserved and provide the timeline for completion of the requested investigation. Respectfully, J. Kevin Esquire. I'm sorry, J. Kevin Hazlett Esquire. Carlson, Meisner, Hazlett, PA.
Office is located in Tampa, Hillsborough, Orlando, Miami.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, unbelievable.
That's a letter from a slinging D that on all 5 of his statements were backed by federal and or local, and in 2 instances, Supreme Court case rulings. He cited the Supreme Court of the United States on 2 different occasions backing his allegations.
And the response was, despite the millionaire's denials, he's negligent. Well, how about you address points 1 through 6?
Yeah.
How about you have some authority to back up what you're saying?
I am not on the popular side of this. People want Jeffrey Knight's ass. But in getting Jeffrey Knight's ass, he has his right to his day in court. He's innocent till proven guilty.
Well, look, we're talking about the due process of this Garcia guy, the Massachusetts man. Isn't a citizen of the United States entitled to due process? That's all we're saying here. Look, I represent injured victims of what I do for a living. If these people were injured as a result of his negligence, they'll get paid. But we're talking about criminal law in the United States of America with a citizen who has a good faith defense. The public should not be skewing it. The media should not be skewing it. That's what we've been bitching about for the last 5 years with the media. Narratives go and narratives sell despite the facts.
And the media has skewed it. Because it just
facts be damned.
Because Jeffrey Knight's a bad guy like me. Jeffrey Knight has been through other situations, and everybody thinks he's a scumbag.
And I know nothing but what's been publicly reported. And as an attorney, looking at what's publicly reported and looking at these letters, you think to yourself, well, this ferry company's got some problems because there's multiple avenues that are complete. You get out of jail free. A couple of those where if he does not have it, presumption of negligence, like those lights.
Like, here's the deal. 3 of these things, Jeffrey Knight's going to walk just on 1. They didn't test the captain. 2, the lights on the back they didn't have any.
Doesn't appear they had any.
They didn't have any. And 3,
the one in the front wasn't visible from the back.
They were overloaded by 3 people. I was talking to Kevin. He said, based on where those 3 additional people, which at that point, when you've overloaded your boat, everything's out. Like you are like everything's off the table at that point. Meaning you've overloaded the capacity of that boat. Now it's like everything's on you. And if that boat was drafting, you know more about navigation than most, but if the 3 people and the extra, let's say, they're 100, the extra 300 pounds or 250 pounds amongst 3 people were at the nose of the boat, that could cause the ass end to draft up,
Correct.
Which might make a boat not be able to see the light as well because the boat is made to have however many people on so that it floats normally. If they're in the back of the boat, then the ass might drag, causing the perception of visual to be impaired.
And
Exactly.
the one he talked about with the light, the spreader light pointing backwards, it has to be visible from 2 miles.
And
that's a but for the failure to have that light, this wouldn't have happened.
And here's another kicker that they're going to get into. But after 2 years, 24 months, they have experts that say if your boat is not covered, which I doubt that the Mattie's cruising boat has a big I doubt that it's covered.
Oh, you mean maintained undercover?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's subjected to sunlight. That after 24 to 36 months, your lenses become weathered and have 50% less luminas than they do when you first buy them. And if you don't exchange out your lenses, that they become, you know how they become oxidized?
Yeah,
and
it's harder to see.
Like your front, on an older car's front headlights, how they become oxidized?
Yes.
Well, navigational lights become oxidized, and if you don't have a rigorous 24 to 36 month change out program, then those lights, and I think Mattie's Cross, I don't know how old the boat is, but just the intensity of the light probably came through a weathered lens that's well past the 36-month change-out deal. Kevin hasn't even begun to start at that. So again, I got to go into words. It's not the popular opinion. In people's eyes, Jeff's the bad guy. But there's a lot of contributing factors. And you know what? There's negligence on both sides. And when there's negligence on both sides, sometimes it's a wash. And I think that's what you're going to get here. Jay, just based on the little bit that you know and then hearing Kevin's letter, can you very well see? Jeff walks on this.
I've got, there's a couple of things. So as far as the criminal, I think that if what Kevin stated in that letter is true, meaning they find that it didn't have a compliant front light, it didn't have a compliant back light, it didn't have the port and stern, it didn't have all the things it was required to, I don't see how they could criminally prosecute him beyond a reasonable doubt for doing something criminal. Especially when you take into consideration the woman who said that when he hit, he's like, there was no effing light on. There's no effing light on. That's called a spontaneous statement. You don't just make that up in the heat of the argument. You're yelling what you're feeling. It's an excited utterance. So I think he does walk on that potentially, based on what I've read. Now, as far as the civil case, in the old days until 2023, we were a pure comparative fault state. So that meant if you and I were involved in an accident and I was 90% at fault, I could still sue you. And if I had a $10 million case and the jury said you're 90% at fault, Mr. Diaco, I could still get my verdict reduced and get that $1 million verdict because you were at fault. The law changed in March of 2023 in Florida. We're now called a modified comparative fault state. So that means now, if you and I are in an accident and we think it's 50-50 and the jury determines that I am 50.01%, zero verdict. You don't get a pure apportionment of fault anymore. So the long story is, if this case went to a jury, they have to prove that the driver of that ferry was not at least 50.01% negligent, or they get nothing. Nothing.
So when I return, before we leave, Kevin, I guess the trolls are having, of course, trolls get involved in everything. And they've now looped us into this.
Because we fight for the rule of law for citizens.
So yeah, wait till you hear this. Knowing that I have a relationship with Kevin, knowing that Kevin probably would maybe appear on my show, they're trying to troll Kevin into not appearing on my show. These trolls are now trying to how sometimes you try to tell somebody you know something so that they don't do it because you know it. Mm-hmm. If you know what I'm talking about.
No, but yes.
Yes. So, the trolls have now got involved in this, and they're making these fake, false narrative, fake news X postings and Facebook postings. And here's the latest. Federal investigators probe Clearwater boat owner Jeffrey Knights for alleged hidden compartments. Federal authorities have launched an investigation. By the way, this is completely false. Because Jeffrey's boat's impounded. And let me just read it. Have launched an investigation into Clearwater residents Jeffrey Knights following a boat incident that resulted in a collision with a ferry. The probe centers around the allegations that Jeffrey Knight's vessel contained concealed compartments potentially used for illicit purposes, including drug trafficking and unlicensed fish storage. By the way, if you have hidden compartments on your boat and there are no illegal fish or drugs, that's not a violation.
That just makes it a compartment.
The incident occurred when Knight's speeding boat collided with a ferry, raising questions about possible impairment and the vessel's unusual modifications. By the way, none of this is true.
Are there compartments, Bubba?
I don't know. Yes.
Just because I didn't know if that was where the 12-day-old would take a nap, when the things were getting a little crazy on the boat.
Throw it in there?
I mean, yeah, a little cupboard,
Witnesses and online discussions have speculated about the presence of hidden compartments within the boat through official confirmation. Oh, I'm sorry. Here's where they cover their ass, Lummy, these trolls. Though official confirmation remains pending, in a surprise twist, Robert Bobby Worth, the manager of Largo Cartoons, publicly acknowledged that his shop installed customized panels. We were contracted to build some specialty compartments. We didn't know what they were used for, but we just did the install. Federal agencies are now examining the structural alterations and whether they were part of a broader smuggling operation. Authorities, can you see how bad they're trying to soil this guy up, Jay?
Where are they? Where's this info? It's a tweet?
Yeah.
From what account is it?
I don't know. I need to track down where it was from.
I just want to see how official they're trying to frame
this. Was it on Facebook or Twitter?
I don't know. Okay, Kevin sent it to me.
Oh, okay.
Authorities have not yet filed formal charges, but described this case as high priority due to its potential scale. Knight's legal representative has announced plans to go on the Bubba the Love Sponge show next week to engage with the public and respond to speculation head on.
Engage with the public.
The appearance is expected to draw widespread attention, especially given the case's growing visibility in the Tampa Bay area. The investigation remains active, and further updates are expected to come within days. Kevin then said, the simple explanation is that. Here's Kevin responded to this tweet. Kevin Hazlett states, the simple explanation is that many people have hidden compartments installed in their boats to simply hide their personal belongings when they dock somewhere to go eat or leave their boat for an extended period of time. I happen to have 4 secret compartments on my boat. That's what Kevin said.
And he's not running drugs.
And he's not having too many redfish.